Keto and crime, keto and crime. We uncover the grime on keto and crime. Keto and crime, keto and crime. Now is the time for keto and crime.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Keto and Crime. Today, day 4 of Kyle Rittenhouse trial in Kenosha, Wisconsin, which I have done comedy in Milwaukee and took a little trip up to Kenosha just to look around the little areas, Racine, Kenosha, those areas. And Kenosha is a great city. I'm so sad that this happened there, that the whole riot situation or looting, burning, protesting, all the damage. I'm so sad about that. I'm sad that this happened to anyone. They have a cheese castle, y'all. Well, it's between Milwaukee and Kenosha. It's the most phenomenal thing on earth because it's got cheese and it's a castle. It's like Mecca in a way. Yeah. So if you haven't been there, go check out the Cheese Castle. If it made it through the pandemic. I haven't Googled it. I need to do that. But anyway, I thought we would dive into day 4 of the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, which, of course, we did. I did 2 updates on day 3 because there was some issues with being able to see the latter part of the day because a lot of crap happened. Judge went off, as you recall. The judge went off about media coverage and cited a few Bible verses and all this stuff. So, you know, bless him. I know it's got to be difficult presiding over this case. So I'll forgive him for that as long as he's not mixing that with his judgment. I'm good. But then something else happened later that afternoon that wasn't officially ruled on until day 4, and that is that a juror, number 7, made a joke to one of the bailiffs and about the Jacob Blake shooting. I'm not going to repeat the joke, but it's well documented in the media. You can definitely check that out. And was dismissed after a complaint from the prosecution saying that it showed racial bias. He was making light of Jacob Blake's shooting, and the judge, even though the judge did take juror number 7, him or her, into the chambers and questioned them about it. They admitted to saying it. They said that it showed no bias toward anything that happened with Rittenhouse. It was just trying to lighten the mood because this is very somber. But it had no bearing on his attitude toward the case. But the prosecution did not see it that way, and he was dismissed. That leaves 19 people in the entire jury pool, moving one up from the backup pool, essentially, alternate pool, to the main jury now for the remainder of the trial. I'm not sure if that hits the reset button and they have to recap all the evidence. I hope not. The stream for day 5, which is Friday, just started. I will be watching that today and we'll include that in my Monday's update. But that was the beginning of day 4, and that took the majority of the morning. Then they moved on to more testimony for witnesses called by the prosecution. Of course, as we know, day 3 ended with the newly released FBI infrared overhead footage of what happened at car source lot 3. I did that whole breakdown yesterday. You can check that out here with Detective Martin Howard. Basically IDing everyone in it and confirming that during it that Rittenhouse had given medical aid to at least 2 people, one dehydration, one other some minor injury, and then during the course of the whole movement was yelling friendly, friendly, friendly at Zaminski and Rosenbaum during the whole willy-nilly running that we saw. This ties back to Dominic Black's testimony in day 2, where he said that when he received the call from Rittenhouse just after shooting Rosenbaum, he was freaking out about what he had done, and that's why he ran off to immediately go turn himself into police. Overall, the consensus of the police officers was that he was absolutely freaking out at the whole situation, as you would. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this case. I would not have let my 17-year-old be there, but you know, people can do what they want to do. He's almost a man. You know, I don't know how I feel about that, but anyway. On cross-examination, the detective did agree with the defense that it appeared from the video that Rosenbaum was lying in wait and did ambush Rittenhouse, causing the shooting. That was law enforcement on cross-exam. As far as I know, the prosecution did not redirect. The video was played throughout with laser pointers and everything throughout the end of day 3 and the beginning of day 4. You can hear people cussing, cursing, as we saw on the video. Then, after the detective was dismissed, the prosecution called 2 more witnesses. The first they called was Richard Mcginnis, or Richie Mcginnis. He is an on-the-ground reporter for the Daily Caller, which is a conservative outlet. He was the independent reporter that witnessed the entire shooting of Rosenbaum, was the one that took off his shirt and attempted to wrap it around Rosenbaum's head to stop the bleeding. And there was also a former Army infantryman, Ryan Balch, who we've seen in several of the videos taken by Corey Washington as standing at the gas station with a gun. Probably part of that Libertarian Party that was there to protect private property. And they ended up giving testimony that ended up being pretty beneficial to Rittenhouse, even though they were called by the prosecution. Mcginnis, who got the entire shooting that occurred, you know, from the time we saw the video end to where they turned into the car lot, that is where Mcginnis's video picks up. He filmed the actual shooting and said that Rosenbaum was indeed chasing Rittenhouse, and Rittenhouse hid in between cars, kind of reached what he called a dead end. He could go no further. There was a shot fired behind Rittenhouse, fired by, as we now know, Zaminski, who's just a real peach. We're going to get to him. And his wife, Kelly, who we haven't heard of before, but she's around. And he fired that in the air somewhere behind Rittenhouse, which of course spooked him, and that is when Rosenbaum threw his plastic bag, which we now know was a plastic bag, but it was filled with personal effects, toothbrush, water bottle, toothpaste, because he had just been released from the mental health wing of a hospital. And arguments going back to day 1, there was a lot of arguments about whether they should just say hospital or mental health hospital. Okay, there should be no shame in getting mental health care, so I'm fine with just using the word hospital. But being that his mental state is being called into question, I think it's relevant to say that it was for mental health related reasons, anger related issues. He had actually gone to his girlfriend's apartment that day and had to leave because there was a restraining order, and that's the reason he was out on the streets of Kenosha, participating in the madness. Mcginnis backed that up with saying that he was behind Rosenbaum. He had picked up behind Rosenbaum and Zaminski as they chased Rittenhouse, and he did push Rittenhouse into a dead-end situation. The other gun went off, the bag was thrown, and then according to Mcginnis, who witnessed the whole thing, Rosenbaum got into the defendant's face, was lunging for the front portion of the rifle as Rittenhouse was trying to get away, and he was, at that time, Rittenhouse had the nozzle of the AR pointed at a 45-degree angle toward the ground, which is how you stand with a gun you're not prepared to fire. And he was attempting to get the rifle away from Rittenhouse. He was in what he called a football stance, Rosenbaum, lunging like you would as a defensive tackle. And he was aggressively trying to take Rittenhouse's rifle from him. Rittenhouse, according to Mcginnis, did try to dodge and get away, but there was no way, and eventually once Rosenbaum made the second attempt, that's when he fired, and the bullet struck Rosenbaum. All that held up during cross-exam by the prosecution, and he said, you know, it's all on video, it's all on the video I took, you can see it. So, I think the prosecution kind of ironically shot themselves in the foot with that. Then they called Ryan Balch, who of course was, I think, one of the libertarians that was there. He had a rifle. According to him, he walked around with Kyle Rittenhouse most of the night. He contested that he was giving medical aid to at least 2 people, and that they had seen Rosenbaum several times throughout the night. He was hyper-aggressive, bouncing around, yelling expletives at people, acting in a pretty violent manner, and had attempted to set many fires in many different areas throughout the night. Much of this was caught on film by Corey Washington and others. He said that while Rosenbaum was setting the dumpster fire, he had threatened both Balch and another BLM protester that was watching and kind of telling him, hey man, don't do that. Saying that if I catch any of you guys alone tonight, I'm going to effing kill you. So this guy was just lashing out at everyone, according to, and that's kind of what set off that whole thing about him yelling, shoot me, shoot me, shoot me, expletive, expletive, expletive. So that's very telling. This was a guy that was obviously there to do nothing but criminal activity and was setting fires, and you had people from BLM telling him, man, don't do that. Don't do that. And him threatening to kill them. So many of those fires, I'm going to contest, probably were not set by BLM protesters at all, by BLM people at all. It was probably set by idiots like Rosenbaum who were just there for criminal activity. Absolutely, I believe that. Instigators. Some people might say Antifa, some people, I don't know, but I'm saying that there were peaceful protesters present that were trying to stop some of the violence, and then they got threatened by the violent idiots who were probably of all creeds, all colors, all religions. You know, crazy bad people are crazy bad people. I don't care what color they are. And they both did confirm that Rosenbaum was not carrying a weapon, but he was acting very aggressive and was hanging around with people that were carrying weapons. And then we bring up Joshua Zaminski, 35, of Racine, with his wife Kelly, who were both armed and were in the fray with Rosenbaum, and were, after Rittenhouse put out one of the fires, they began chasing him, cussing at him, yelling at him along with Rosenbaum, and that's where we saw the whole fray. Now, these are very lovely people. This is a very biased part of the video, so if you don't want a very biased part of the video, let me know. They both had several misdemeanors. They were actually charged with disorderly conduct, possession of a dangerous weapon, firing a handgun recklessly, and he was the one that actually fired the first shot heard at Car Source 3 that set off a whole chain reaction. So there you go. He has not taken the stand yet. I don't know if he will. I don't think that the prosecution would be so dumb as to put somebody like that on the stand for them. I hope not. So that was the majority of the testimony in Day 4. All the things that came out in Day 4. It's a wild ride. Day 5 is already going on. I'm going to get back over there and watch it so that I can report to you on Monday. And this is far from over, y'all. It's going to be a wild one. It's going to be very interesting to see how it turns out. And like I said, everything I'm saying is from testimony and video that I'm watching. There's lots of stuff coming out that I did not know. I did not know the identity of the person that fired the first shot. I did not know the extent of how Rosenbaum was acting recklessly. I did not know the extent of how much violence was going on around the city during that time until this trial. It's just a tragedy that I wish had never happened. And with that being said, I'll see you on Monday with another update. This weekend we've got some great new a true crime coming out for you. And until then, keep on crying.